focus there, shall we? I need to come in some. There we go. Welcome, everyone. It's Career Happy Hour. Yes, it's 3 o'clock Pacific time. Every Friday, we will be here to support you through this community. This community is indeed here to support each other. It's why we call it Career Happy Hour. It's a chance for us to see each other, to share ideas, and to come away refreshed, maybe even inspired for the weekend and what the next week lies ahead. If you don't know me, I'm Andrew Beach. I'm a teacher of self-education. I help professionals understand themselves better in order to communicate their value to others in a way that helps them find great opportunities faster, whether they're working or not. That's through a pragmatic process by the way of branding, planning, and effective networking. If that's something that's new to you, then I understand. It's not uncommon that you might be in a position where you haven't ever taken advantage of coaching before. That's why I've set up an application process to see if there's a fit for us and to see if I can actually help you. That link indeed is in the description down below. If you could take a minute, please, and let me know where you're joining from and what questions you might have that you can put in the comments or in the chat. If you're watching the replay, that's fine. Go ahead and put any questions you have in the comments, and I'll do my very best to answer those as they come in. One way we can kind of exchange information and support each other is by sharing our LinkedIn profiles. So if you're joining on, let's see, today I'm streaming on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. This is the first time I'm trying this live stream on Instagram. So hopefully this is working. That looks like I've gone live now. I have to have a certain piece of software. I think it's called just for your information, it's called Yellow Duck, and hopefully that's working. I'll have to go over to my Instagram and see if that's actually happening. It may not be. So good to see everyone. Mary Jane, good to see you. Venky, good to see you. Terry from the Basement Lounge, excellent. So I'm just gonna peek into my Instagram to see if I'm actually live there or not. And so talk amongst yourselves, ask questions if you have any, and I will certainly do my best to answer them as we come along. Now, there is an opportunity for you to come on if you want live coaching. This is a live session, and yes, you can come on live. Terry Smith did it last week. Any one of you could click the link in the description, but I will go ahead and also just really quickly, because that link appears to have changed, I will come into the live stream here on LinkedIn and make sure that's in there so that you can come on live if you want to. That includes, of course, Terry. If no one else comes in, I guess you could come in again. So you could join me live right now for free coaching. Yes, it is free. That doesn't mean it isn't valuable. I think that's where a lot of people get it wrong, is that they think by getting something that's free, like this Career Happy Hour, that it's not something that that's going to have value. So it's unfortunate some people feel that way. But if you want to join or even get in there and take a peek, let me see. I don't know is there any way to find out if I'm live on this thing? Yeah, I don't know if I am or not. So maybe I had that wrong. Maybe I had to go live on this Duck platform first. And let me see here if it's on my end. Title setup isn't supported for this platform. Okay. So anyway, hopefully if you go to my Instagram, I have the same channels regardless of which platform I'm on. It's at Branding Dynamo. So if you go to Instagram and go to at Branding Dynamo, it should be there. Maybe I need to go to my profile. Nope, it's not showing there. So that's weird. I have to confirm my email address. Okay. Well, maybe next week we'll get this down. It's technology. What can I say? So the topic for today is something that I've seen appear again and again as a theme among a lot of the individuals that I coach and that reach out to me for support. In some kind of way, they feel like they're being discriminated based on their age. And so they think they're ageist or ageism is affecting their capability to get opportunities. And I'm here to dispel any kind of thoughts about deliberate. I'll say this in a hopefully a politically correct way. My attempt here today is to dispel any deliberate discrimination in terms of hiring people. And so I know there are organizations or individuals that do, but for the most part, I think organizations are really sensitive to equal employment opportunity. A lot of the hiring teams and HR departments are compliance driven. And so they do all they can to make sure that there's a diverse set of experiences and a diverse set of candidates for any one opportunity. So that said, I do believe that there is bias in every hiring process. And I don't think that's something you can get around. You can mitigate bias. You can try to minimize bias, but I don't think you can entirely eliminate somebody's perspective. And that's really what bias is. It's their perspective. And we can certainly manage perceptions or perspectives as individuals looking for employment, and organizations can certainly take a stand in that space as well. You are live on LinkedIn. Yes, I know. I know that part's working. What I'm trying to figure out is how to get it live streaming on Instagram. So if you if you have a chance, I don't even know if I can see if I'm live streaming on Instagram or not, but it doesn't currently look like that I am. So I don't believe that it's working. And I don't want to stop the live broadcast to work out my technical issues, but it looks like I need to go live in the, what is this called? Yellow Duck software before I go live on Restream. So, and you only have, I think, 3 minutes to make that happen. So it's kind of a really kind of wonky thing. I used to do it on my cell phone. So I have my cell phone here. I'd set the cell phone up and I do the live stream that way on Instagram. But then the people on Instagram couldn't hear when we have guests in and we do some coaching. So all they would hear is me being quiet as somebody else was speaking, and they couldn't hear what's happening. So I want to make sure that I access as many platforms as possible to spread the message about Career Happy Hour. So the topic again today is overcoming ageism. Now, some people believe, at least the ones that have come to me, is they believe that that only happens to people that are older. And that's not true. I've seen ageism hit people that are younger, where if you think about it, let's say you're just out of college, you're hitting your first job, and guess what? You don't have a lot of experience. So I have a belief about you that you don't have enough experience to do this job. Is that a bias? Yes, it's a bias because you're young, you're just out of college, and I perceive that you haven't had enough life experience to know right from wrong and good from bad and how to approach this role. And so that's my bias. Does that happen? Yes, it happens. People perceive that you don't have experience, then they perceive you don't have experience. That can happen at any age, quite honestly. But let's take a look at this today from the perspective of those that most often feel that they're victims, if you will, of ageism, and that is the older age categories. And so I'm going to go through some thoughts, some ideas here, and you're welcome to chime in and ask questions or make contributions or even join the live stream using the link that I've placed in the comments. And so as we go through this list, I suppose it's just an abbreviated list of thoughts and ideas that I've put together on the positives and the negatives of what it means to be subject to ageism, to ageist behaviors, if you want to call it that. And so the idea here is let's start with the negatives, because honestly, let's be honest with each other, please, can we? These are the easiest ones to identify, is that you know when you are maybe feeling like you're being discriminated against. And so sometimes it evidences itself in the way you present yourself on your resume, in the way you interview, in the way you do your informational networking, that some of these might be evident to the audience you're looking to impress. And so one of the things that often comes up is slow to learn. Slow to learn, meaning you know certain things and you believe those to be true, and learning new things is just not something you have maybe an appetite for. I can admit that as I get older, I don't have an appetite to learn things that don't advance me in some way. I love to learn. I consider myself a teacher of self-education, right? I help people learn about themselves. And so if I was wanting to learn something, I would have to have a reason to do so. When I was younger, man, I would do just about anything. I'd learn many ways to do things. And so it may be that it takes me longer to learn things now, but I still have capability and capacity. But in some way, I'm presenting myself in a way that demonstrates to an audience that I might not be able to learn this job or this role or this organization. So keep that in mind as you go through and present yourself. Think about, how can I demonstrate to this hiring team that I have a capacity to learn? That also kind of goes hand in hand with the second item here, and that is stuck in your ways. Often as I get older, I'm less adaptable to change. It causes me a little more anxiety, I think, because I'm kind of nostalgic about certain things and I don't want them to change. So I can admit that, and most people might feel that way, that the way things are the way things should be. And I'm stuck in my ways and I see things a certain way, and I'm maybe resistant to change or too much change, and that I might stick to my guns, so to speak, when it comes to collaborating with others. And so how can I overcome that? Well, I can demonstrate ways in which I've come into a team where I felt like an outsider and I built rapport and I got good results. Now I have examples that I can share in my interview, in my networking, that demonstrates that I don't have this type of approach. Now, could that happen at any age? Yes, any of these could really happen at any age. And so let's think about how we're presenting ourselves as potential candidates for employment or getting a promotion or whatever the context of your situation might be, that we have ways to mitigate these things. Outdated experience. Is it possible that what you learned way back when is not applicable today? Yes, that is possible. However, that doesn't mean you don't have current experience that's more relevant. So this typically comes up, that in the overqualified moniker, that comes up when you are presenting to somebody too much of your experience. And so if I look at somebody's resume, and I fall in this category too, I could document literally 30 plus years of experience. Now, what would that communicate about me? That I have a lot of experience. And having a lot of experience might mean what? That some of it's not applicable today, and that it might be a little stale. Let's be honest. What I learned about Lotus 1-2-3 back in the early 90s or the late 80s or whatever you want to call it may not be applicable today, because although spreadsheets are really cool, very few people using Lotus 1-2-3 today, if you know what I mean. But the idea is, so the other thing applies if you're talking about technology. If I put on my Novell NetWare and I was a NetWare administrator and I had all these skills, then guess what? Not many people using Novell NetWare today. And so I've really put myself in a position that I am now stale, out of date. I don't have current experience. And so recognize we may be activating these bias mechanisms without us really paying attention. We think it's the right thing to do, to display all of our capabilities and all of our experience. And it's important to us to communicate what we have in terms of our toolkit. I get that. Now, it might be that you're overshooting the target. If the target is 8 to 10 years experience and I'm giving somebody 25, let's make that adjustment. Let's not provide people all the experience that we have, just the stuff that's relevant to what they're looking for. And those two things, interestingly enough, the too much experience and the overqualified moniker mean expensive. And so there's a lot of things that people believe about people that are a little bit older, and that is that they might be asking for salaries that are out of their budgetary range. And they may be wanting to hire somebody that's a little bit more junior, I suppose, and pay them less. I mean, that's just let's be honest, is that if I have a slate of candidates and 8 of them are in the $100,000 range, and there's one person with a lot of experience in the $200,000 range, I've got an easy decision. As long as those individuals are equally qualified, I can go with the candidates that my needs better at a more affordable budget. That makes good business sense, by the way. And so I would never diminish anybody's qualifications. I just want to make sure that if you feel you're being discriminated because of your age, then you might want to think about how you're presenting the information that you have and what kind of language you're using, what are you positioning on your resume, how much experience are you delivering, and make those adjustments and see if you get better results in your interviews, in getting interviews, and in actually excelling at the interview phase. And then tech challenge. So here's the thing. A lot of people, as they get older, just don't want to learn or understand technology. And that's unfortunate. I think this is not as prevalent as it used to be because there's so many new tech systems, and we have a computer in our hand called a cell phone, and we have all these new social channels. And so I don't think that's going to be as big an issue going forward because we're now getting into generations that have grown up with technology, and it's just something that's second nature to many individuals. And so tech challenged is certainly something that may come up. So that's the negatives. Okay. The negatives, like I said, are easy to identify. So what do we have here in terms of questions? So what is the sweet spot in age? Stop at 15 or 20. I know what you mean by sweet spot in age, but in terms of chronology on a resume, I think you give somebody what they're asking for and a little bit more, not what they're asking for and a lot bit more. So if I have a job requisition that says 5 years, hey, I'm okay going back 10. Okay, that's not out of bounds. However, if I'm the type of person that has 30 years experience and a PhD, and they're only asking for 8 experience and a master's degree, do I put my PhD on the resume? So, I mean, that's something that I've always kind of wrestled with. And, I don't think I have an answer when it comes to resume, because it isn't always the resume that gets you the interview. It could be your cover letter. It could be a referral. It could be an internal champion. It could be you already know the hiring manager. And that puts you at a distinct advantage for sure. And then guess what? Because you have a recommendation, a referral, an internal champion, the need for your resume to meet everybody's requirements is diminished because you're already at the interview table. And so think about these as not or the other, but as a unified approach to getting an interview focus. So when you coach with me, I focus on getting you interviews. That's what we're here for. We're not here to make sure your resume has all the right keywords, although that can be helpful. It's not a guarantee that you're going to get an interview. So we need to use all the tools, all the techniques at our disposal to actually get an interview. Let's see. So thank you for that question, Supreet. Appreciate that. It's always nice to get questions. So if you indeed have a question, then great. So let's now talk about the positive side of ageism and the virtue and maybe things that we can think about when it comes to this process of positioning ourselves based on our assets. Because here's what I found is often people are very quick to say how they're not qualified or to disqualify themselves versus some kind of a, how would you call it? Versus some kind of arbitrary criteria. So there's a set of criteria. I look at the criteria. I don't have it. I disqualify myself. And I think that's really yourself short. So always focus on your virtue and your assets. Virtue and assets. So what are some of the positive things we can look at or even talk about when it comes to ageism in the older age category? I always believe that people that are my elders, and I guess I was kind of raised that way, had great wisdom. They had life experience that I didn't have. They grew up in a generation I was not a part of. They have unique perspectives. And so when I look at that, I start thinking to myself, what a great asset, what a great resource. And unless I believe that about myself, how on earth can I convince or encourage somebody else to also see that? Many hiring teams already believe this about us in this age category, or whatever you want to call it, this older age group, that you have great wisdom. The volume of your experience is honorable. And the fact that you've seen things that they have not, and you've been through more than one recession. Most of the working world today has never been through a recession. I think I've been through 2 in my lifetime, that at least the ones that were real recessions. We can debate what a recession is and when it happened, but I think there was at least 2 recessions that I've been through that I can distinctly remember. Work ethic. A lot of times we can position ourselves because often we see the younger age categories, let's just be honest, and it doesn't seem like they have good work ethic. The 4 work week and, having 2-hour lunches and ping pong tables and all this stuff. Hey, I'm here to do a job and I'm ready to go to work. And so work ethic is something that I think we can lean into as we go to market with our skills, that we can say as part of our presentation that we have. And so you can put these assets, these kind of thoughts, these positive presentations on your cover letter, in your resume. You can stick them in your LinkedIn profile. You can use them as narratives during your conversations. It's always good to leverage a positive bias. So here's the thing about bias, is that there's a good and a negative, right? A positive and a negative. And so all I want to do is make sure that you're focused on delivering the positive so that people can see it and affirm it because they already believe it. It's their perspective, not yours, right? And so these are all external perspectives. This is what people feel about you without you knowing. And all you need to do is remind them. And so the nice thing is, as you remind them about what you already have as an asset, they feel better about the decision to push you forward in a hiring process. Okay, so focus on work ethic, reliable. I mean, I was taught, hey, if you're not 10 minutes early, you're late. And so this concept of being on time and delivering results and being reliable and consistent and showing up is something that this generation, admittedly, I'm Generation X. So, I mean, there's also the boomers and all these different generations that we talk about, but they were raised under different circumstances with different technologies and different expectations and different parental strategies. And so there's truth to the fact that the older generations are generally more reliable. Why? Because we couldn't rely on technology. We had to rely on each other. We were in a neighborhood, and the neighborhood would get together and do things. Now, I mean, I was talking to a group of friends this morning. It's interesting when we brought up how different our neighborhoods are. You move into a neighborhood and you're close with your neighbors. At least this was the experience I had with our prior neighborhood. We'd have block parties, we'd do barbecues together. Our kids were about the same age. They were all growing up, and it felt like a community. Now I come home and, I see my neighbors. They'll pull into their driveway, open the garage. They'll drive into the garage and immediately close the door because I don't know, maybe they don't want to ever talk to anybody. So I find it fascinating, just the differences in how people interact with other people. Efficiency and effectiveness is another positive attribute because we've seen a lot of different things, and we can see the pragmatic, direct, and sometimes easy way to do things because we've seen how many ways not to do things. And so I think a lot of times that wisdom displays itself in our capacity to be a lot more efficient and know a critical path to a place that the organization or I myself need to go. And that brings up something that I believe a lot of job-seeking professionals overlook, or someone looking for a promotion, that sort of thing, is the fact that you, as an older individual, have diverse perspectives. Because the working world today, I think the average age of a worker is somewhere around 40, so or less. Some organizations, I think early 30s, late 20s. I can think of a local organization here in Oregon that's that way. And so when you come in, you actually are the diversity candidate, meaning, hey, we've got a group of individuals on this team. They're aged 28 to say 34. Someone comes in our age category. What do we provide? We provide mentorship. We provide leadership. We provide direction. We can add diversity of perspective. Because a lot of times if you have a group of people that are similar, they all have the same bias. They can't see any other perspectives. You then become the diversity play. I think that's true if you're doing a career change as well. So let's say, you're not only in this age category, but you're doing a career change and you're coming from a different domain or a different industry, then you provide a unique perspective. Lean into that. Lean into these positive things as you're thinking about going forward and becoming on board with that organization or getting a promotion, that you are the diversity. You represent diversity. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. Have a diversity of perspective or ideas or experiences. That's huge. Now, on the negative side, we thought that overqualified was a bad thing, or the audience did. And so the way to mitigate that is by thinking in our heart that we're well qualified. And so if I get, let's say, turned down for an interview, then what I'm suggesting is that, hey, don't you think you're a little overqualified? Well, hey, how am I overqualified if I can't get an interview? If you can't get an interview, what's that an admission of? That's typically an admission of you're not qualified. So there's a difference, right, between not qualified and well qualified. I believe that then becomes a valuable investment, that I'm getting more for my money. That means I get somebody at this level paying this amount of money that has a lot more experience than I anticipated. That makes them well qualified and a good value. So it's that value sell versus lower compensation, right? So in the negatives, they think you're expensive. In this case, they're thinking, wow, what a great value to get somebody with this kind of experience to do this kind of work and help us in our transition plan to bring on new leadership or mentor the next generation or do whatever. I've seen this happen a lot of times where someone more senior comes in and they're the person that's meant to bring along the young leaders in the organization. And that happens a lot. And I think it's very important to have that, where you don't have that tribal knowledge walk out the door, especially in organizations where you've had long tenured employees. And so that concept of well qualified is something that really comes to mind. So that's it for the prepared remarks, if you want to call it that. So if you certainly have any questions, you can go ahead and put those in the comments or the chat, depending on the platform you're joining from. If you want to join live, you're welcome to do so. Looks like Supreet has another question. Thank you, Supreet. In 2020, I could not survive because now I was 40 plus. So our ability to survive a recession do get impacted with age. Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot to unpack there. And so I understand what you're trying to communicate. And let's see, what does it say? In 2008, survived as I was in my 30s. Let's see, 2 of 3 recessions. Sorry, I'm going back to the following questions that you had for me. It's also through 2 to 3 recessions, and I survived, and I was just in my 20s. Yep. Okay. Survived 2008 in my 30s. And but in 2020, I could not survive because now I was 40. Now, what does that mean? What do you mean by survive? Maybe you could be more explicit about that. But what I'm sensing here, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you feel that the methods you're using should generate the same results in your 20s and 30s as it does in your 40s. Meaning, hey, if I make an application online, I should get an interview and then I should get an offer. That's not the way a lot of people are hired today. I would say about 85% of positions never go publicly advertised. And if they are, they likely already have a preferred candidate. That means it's either an internal candidate or someone that was referred to them. So we really have to be cautious about saying that things have changed and that's because of my age. It could be the methods of search that are effective have changed, and that online applications are not serving. And if all we're relying on is online applications to generate interviews, that may not be working for us. And that it may work for some folks, especially if there's high demand and low supply. It might work in those situations where there's an industry that is only looking for applicants, maybe high turnover. It just really depends. So the idea here would be to track the methods of search that you're using, see how many interviews you're getting, and the one that generates the most interviews is the focus most of the time on. And so if I can look at your activities and see that you're spending, let's say, 4 hours a day making online applications, half an hour a day in networking, and then doing some LinkedIn learning. Let's just say that that's your thing. Well, the LinkedIn don't generate interviews because that's sharpening your saw. You're not really in a hiring process. You're in a individual process. The applications might generate an interview, but then the question becomes, in those 4 hours, how many applications did I make and how many interviews did I get those applications? Now I can track the effectiveness of that particular method. So keep that in mind. Now I can look at the 30 minutes of networking and say, wow, I contacted one person, the guy I worked with, he's now working at another company that I want to work for, and he put me in his recommendation on a role for me, and I made the application, yes, but his thumb was on the scale for me. So keep that in mind. Let's see. Thank you, Terry. Qualified is a very subjective word, and cons it is. You're absolutely right. And so the perception is reality. And it's not my perception. It's the perception the hiring team has of me. And therefore, I need to be very conscientious about what's important to that hiring team to know about me so that they can then push me forward in a hiring process. And that means asking a lot of questions. So that's, in terms of a coaching interaction, that's why I most people are looking at, hey, they're going to ask me questions. I need to have answers. That is true. However, you should have your own questions to act in order to create dialogue and also to make sure there's a fit from your side. And so you're interviewing as well, and that sort of thing. Oh, here we go. Clarifying question. Thank you, Supreet. Meaning I was part of the resize in 2020. I was jobless for several months and then found a job with the same rank in a different company. Yes. Here's the thing. I mean, this is evidence there that, hey, it may take longer. Give yourself a little grace, little forgiveness, because you did get downsized during a pandemic, and these were not normal hiring times. Companies didn't know how to respond, and so they responded out of fear, and they laid off a lot of people, and they made a huge mistake when they did that. Many companies regretted doing that during the pandemic because then they had to come back into a very competitive, hire those individuals back if they could, and not many organizations could. So truthfully, those organizations that did lay off during the pandemic ended up making a mistake. Unless you were in hospitality or travel or that sort of thing, then they were able to survive the pandemic, I think likely because they did do some reductions in force and furloughs. But that's a separate discussion. Your experience is unique to you. And so just because you had that experience doesn't mean everybody else does. And so we need to take our own journey, analyze it, and decide what's going to work for us. And now that you're working, congratulations. I think that's great. There's always something better. And so now we can approach the marketplace a little more deliberately, not wait for a resize, not wait for a reduction in force, not wait for a merger acquisition. We're going to be positioning ourselves and at the ready in the event those things happen. And in that process, what might happen is you might actually find something better. So always keep your eyes and ears open, look for opportunities, always visit I shouldn't say always, let's put it this way. If you're working, I would suggest scheduling an appointment with yourself every quarter to look at four things. Four things. One, your resume. Two, your LinkedIn profile. Those kind of go together. Three, your marketing plan, meaning your career map, your career plan. Where are you going? Where are you headed? Are you getting the experiences that you need to get to that space? So if you're a director, do you want to become a VP? Great. What skills do you need to know to get to a VP? What people do you need to meet, and that sort of thing. And then the fourth component is people, valued members of your network. And that means you need to add people to your network, because the people that got you where you may not be the same people that get you where you want to be at the VP level, let's say, as an example. And so if that's the case, then I need to meet new people that will maybe be VP peers, right? I'm going to approach those people like I'm their peer. And then I need to approach maybe a chief operating officer, C-suite individuals as future leaders of someone like me at the VP level. So keep that in mind. You need to expand and connect with and incubate and feed your network and pay it forward in a way that allows you to have opportunity to activate what I'd refer to as the reciprocity principle. And that is the law of reciprocity says if you pour into something, you should get something out, right? Something goes in, something comes out. And so if I'm pouring into another individual in my network and giving them value and helping them in their career or helping them solve a problem in their organization or what have you, I've now poured into that person so much that they feel when I come to them and ask for something that that's bringing things back to equilibrium. So thank you for those contributions, Supreet. I do appreciate the questions, and I hope that was of value and that you got something from it. If so, just let me know in the comments. I'd appreciate that feedback. And then if anybody wants to come on, I don't know, Terry, if you do pop in here and say hello and provide some of your own perspective or thoughts on these concepts, I think you might have a good put on that, but that's certainly up to you. Otherwise, I'll wish you a good weekend, and I'm going to try out. Hopefully, this will work on Instagram next time. So I apologize to my friends on Instagram if the live stream is not working, and it doesn't look like it is. So many apologies. It doesn't look like it's active. So I'll get that figured out for next week, hopefully. And truthfully, next week might actually be a recorded session. We have some family events going on next Friday. So just stay tuned. It may not be live, but it will be recorded, and you'll still be able to participate and collaborate that way. So have a great weekend, everybody. I do wish you the best, and we'll see you next Career Happy Hour.